Hi guys, welcome to our daily encounter. There are several things that were accomplished at the cross through the crucifixion of Jesus Christ. For one, the justice of God and the love of God were satisfied. That is, God was able to both demonstrate his mercy and his love, but also remain just and to demonstrate his justice there at the cross. Our salvation was procured at the cross. Our redemption was made sure at the cross. God accomplished a lot at the cross of Jesus Christ. And there's something else that was also accomplished that perhaps we don't think about a whole lot. And that is because of what Christ did on the cross and because of the gospel message that was connected to what Christ had accomplished on the cross, God now has a means by which he can call the right people into the kingdom. That is, the people that he's looking for. Because of the nature of the cross and the crucifixion of Christ, now God can call the humble to himself. Not the prideful, not those who trust in themselves, but those who, in humility and openness of heart, can come to accept Jesus Christ and to place their trust in another, into God himself, and not in themselves. And that's what 1 Corinthians chapter 1 is all about, for the most part. There he talks about the fact that God, through the message of the cross, was able to eliminate those who sought after power and those who sought after wisdom. The Jews were seeking after power. They were looking for signs, Paul says. It says in verse 22, "For indeed Jews asked for signs." They were looking for the miraculous, these attesting miracles, things that would be just, letters written in the heavens type of things, astronomical miracles that would confirm that, Jesus Christ was the Messiah. And they were looking for power, and perhaps it plays a part in what they were experiencing as a nation. They had been powerless under the rule of Rome, and they were looking for a Messiah who would come in power, who would come and relieve them from the oppression of the Roman Empire, and to make them an independent nation once again. And they were seeking after power. The Greeks were looking for wisdom. They looked for wisdom. They were looking for philosophy. They were looking for some type of message that was intellectually stimulating, something that they could really demonstrate their intellectual prowess and demonstrate how intelligent they were. They were looking for something that would puff up their minds in that sense. And so both the Jews and the Greeks were looking for things that would elevate them, either elevate them in power or elevate them in wisdom and knowledge. But the cross of Jesus Christ applied none of that for them. The cross of Christ was foolishness to the Greeks. What do you mean? There's a guy who died on a cross and then was raised again on the third day. That would seem like foolishness to them. It's perhaps maybe too simple of believing in Jesus Christ, believing in this so-called Messiah, this King of the Jews that we don't even see around anymore. That was foolishness to the Greeks. And it was weakness and a stumbling block to the Jews. There was no deliverance from Rome as they were looking for it through the death of Jesus Christ. All they see on the cross is defeat and weakness, not power and glory, which is what they were looking for. And so both for those who were seeking to puff themselves up through power or those who were puffing themselves up because of wisdom, all of that was destroyed through the cross. And so it was only left for those who would accept it, those who would accept it in humility. And God has said that this is the way it would be. In verse 18 it says, "For the word of the cross is foolishness to those who are perishing, but to us who are being saved, it is the power of God." So for us, it's the power of God, not the power of ourselves. It's the wisdom of God, not our wisdom. And he concludes by saying in verse 29, so that no man may boast before God. He says, but by his doing, you are in Christ Jesus, who became to us wisdom from God and righteousness and sanctification and redemption, so that just as it is written, let him who boasts, boast in the Lord. So through the cross, it's the working of God that we trust in. It's in the wisdom of God that we trust in, the power of God that we trust in, not in our own power and not in our own wisdom, in our own ability. And that takes a humble person to do. It takes a person who realizes that they can't accomplish anything in and of themselves, that they have to rely upon Jesus Christ. They have to rely upon the work that God had done. And so the message of the cross plays towards those types of individuals. And therefore, it's the humble, those who are poor in spirit, those who are meek and gentle, who come to accept the message of the gospel. And so God can then fill his kingdom with those who are humble, not those who are prideful, not those who trust in themselves. And it's a wonderful way in which God has used the cross and the message of the cross to do that. Any message will basically have different responses to different types of people. For those who watch soccer, you know that the USA men's team has won the Gold Cup this year, and they beat Mexico, and they won the Gold Cup. If you just make that statement to different people, you'll get different responses. For those who don't follow soccer, it may not mean that much to them. To people who do follow soccer and are fans of the USA team, you're going to get a different response. You're going to get a response of joy and elation that the USA men's soccer team won. If you speak to someone who perhaps is a fan of Mexico, you're going to get a different response. But it's the same message. The USA soccer team won the Gold Cup. Even if you don't change that statement at all, not one syllable in the sentence, given who you present that message to, is going to get different responses. And that's what the gospel does. It reveals the hearts of people. As you tell people about Jesus Christ, how he died for their sins, and how they can trust in him and not in themselves for salvation and righteousness, it's going to provoke different responses by different people depending on what's in their heart. If they trust in themselves and they think that they're okay, well, they won't feel like they need the cross of Jesus Christ. If they're searching after something that will cause them to receive some type of extra power or to move up the corporate ladder, or to have a leg up on other people, or to show themselves as very knowledgeable, that sort of thing, they might be repelled from a message that really calls them to be humble and to accept the message in humility. But the point is that different people that we present the message to are going to have different responses. And God has set it up that way so that the humble, those who will trust in him, will come to him. But as we move forward, even, sometimes as we accept Christ in humility, but then after we become Christians and we begin our walk, it might be that we then afterwards begin to become prideful in our knowledge, or become prideful in our positions and things like that. And that's really what Paul is addressing here in 1 Corinthians chapter 1. He's dealing with people who were trying to follow after wisdom again. They were primarily Gentiles who had been called into Christ, and they still had that old feeling that, okay, well, now we've accepted Christ. Now we need to exercise wisdom. They began to divide because of their seeking after these different ways of labeling themselves. I am of Paul, I am of Apollos, I am of Cephas, I am of Christ. And whenever you do that, whenever you segregate yourself from the rest of the group, you're doing it because you think perhaps that you're better than they are, that we have a better knowledge than you do, Therefore, we have a different designation than you do. And Paul is working against that and saying, look, remember that, going back to the beginning, remember that not many wise were called. And he says in verse 20, where is the wise man? Where is the scribe? Where is the debater of this age? Has God not made foolish the wisdom of the world? And don't you remember the way that you received the gospel? That it wasn't through your own ingenuity and your own wisdom or your own power. You just accepted the gospel humbly. Remember that. Don't, now that you are a Christian, go chasing after power and wisdom. Remember where you came from. And that's what we need to do as well as Christians. To remain humble, to remember that it's not in our strength or our ability that we are able to be who we are, but we just humbly receive what God has done for us. And yes, we do try to increase in knowledge. We try to increase in understanding in the Word of God so that we can relate to God better and so that we can be more effective in the work of the kingdom, but not so we can puff ourselves up and to boast in our knowledge. And yes, we do try to overcome the weaknesses of the flesh. We do try to overcome the powers of darkness in the heavenly places, talking about in Ephesians chapter 6. But again, it's not in our strength or our power. We do it in trusting in the Lord, who helps us and equips us in those types of situations. And so this is a good message for those who perhaps are considering coming to Christ, but it's also a good message for those who have already come to Christ and have been living with Christ in a relationship with Christ for some time. We need to remember where we came from and continually put our trust and our hope in God and not boast in ourselves, but to do what he says here in verse 31, let him who boasts, boast in the Lord. It's what the Lord has done, that I am who I am. And we always have to remind ourselves of that. So let's try to do that today, guys, as we do our reading. As you read 1 Corinthians chapter 1 particularly, let's remember where we came from. Let's remain humble, but let's continue to trust in the Lord. And to remember Christ's words that said, without me, you can do nothing. And there his encouragement was that we would abide in him. And as we stay connected to him, we can accomplish much, but it's him doing the work through us. So with that, guys, I do thank you for watching the video today. I hope you guys have a great day. Love you guys. God bless.